This comment is what's known as enlightened centrism. Americans seem to think that there is nuance to imperial capitalism. How convenient for them that the consequences and effects of capitalism are offshored, spatially displaced, and externalized to other societies that they do not interact with. The people in the global south, for example, understand this all too well. The abovist loves to claim allegiance to some secret metaphysical third thing, although they're very vague on what they mean by somewhere in the middle. In the middle of what? Private ownership and public ownership? What lies in the middle between capital and labor? What is the middle between owners and workers? That is the principal contradiction in the political economy of capitalism. Capitalism has baked into it an inherent class antagonism of owners versus workers. It is an inherently exploitative relationship. Capitalism requires a minority class to exact dominance over a majority class. Clearly, the opposite of a society that organizes itself in that manner would be a majority class exacting dominance over a minority class. In this case, socialism, a majority class of workers exacting control over the productive forces in society and suppressing the minority capitalist class. The opposite of private ownership of public resources, land, and labor would be public ownership of public resources, land, and labor. There is no secret third thing. Society, which has organized itself into two separate antagonistic classes, can only be organized two different ways. There can only be one opposite to capitalism. Historically speaking, every human society that has ever existed has had a group of people that were capable of creating commodities fit for human consumption for that society. In other words, it was and still is absolutely essential to have a working class of people in a society if that society is going to survive. On the other hand, what is non-essential, unnecessary, and superfluous is a separate class of owners called capitalists. What I said is literally borne out by the historical facts. Capitalism is maybe 400 years old. Organized human societies, on the other hand, have existed for tens of thousands of years, and all of them had an economy. Capitalism only has one opposite. Just like day is to night, black is to white, socialism is to capitalism. It is the principal contradiction: capital, labor, owners, and workers. The only thing equipped to oppose capitalism is socialism. If human society is to continue on in an organized manner the way that it has for tens of thousands of years, then the next phase in our historical development is socialism. Just as capitalism emerged from feudalism, socialism will emerge from capitalism. It is an historical imperative. Capitalism irreconcilably contradicts itself because it is predicated upon the principle of infinite accumulation in a world of finite resources. It is always short-term profits over long-term risks. Under capitalism, it is an institutional legal imperative to pursue short-term private profit accumulation over public risks. In capitalism, everything must be privatized, including your health. Human rights are themselves a for-profit industry. Everything in our society must behave like a for-profit capitalist firm. It is absolutely sociopathic. In order to understand what a solution might be, you have to understand what we are dealing with. And I find that most people have some flowery preconception about what capitalism is. But let's define capitalism in no uncertain terms. What is capitalism? Well, capitalism is the private ownership of public resources concurrent with the exploitation of labor. Capitalism is predicated on the existence of two classes, and one class oppresses and exploits the other. The class in capitalist society that does the exploiting is the capitalist class. The class that is exploited is the worker class. The capitalist class is the minority. It's a fraction of 1% at this point in the age of imperial monopoly capitalism. Capitalism is the preference, the priority of capital over labor, and the inherent class antagonism that stems from this inherently exploitative relationship between owners and workers. Socialism is the answer. It is well known, and now maybe you don't know it, but government officials operating in a capitalist economy sure do. That's why they fight every socialist development that props up in the world tooth and nail, no matter if it's on an island in Guam or it's a large territory like Russia. Capitalists cannot take dissent. Don't believe me? Ask Henry Kissinger about the domino theory. Read the National Security Council's 68 document written in 1951 by Paul Nitz. Capitalism is private ownership ideology. Socialism is public working class ideology. Being a worker but promoting capitalist ideology is an example of severe brain rot. It just means you are fond of your oppressors and you are defending your right to be exploited. This is why workers who defend billionaires online and promote this ideology, which is directly antagonistic towards their livelihood and undermines and exploits them at every turn, are said to be bootlickers. They are said to have Stockholm Syndrome. Capitalism will always tend towards monopolies. There is no justification for corporate power. Abovists love to apply cosmetics to capitalism like this person did. They don't want to get rid of capitalism, they want to manicure it. But that's like putting lipstick on a pig or a band-aid on a bullet wound. Was there ever any way to reform slavery or the feudal system? Of course not. Everyone understands by now that those systems were inherently exploitative, could not be justified, and were summarily dismantled. And the same will happen to capitalism, one way or another. Either we will destroy capitalism or capitalism will destroy us. There are only two options: socialism or barbarism.
Nixon ordered Cambodian genocide. Clinton sent cruise missiles to Sudan, people died. Obama gave the orders to do drone strikes.